Diego here, content creator, music video director, movie lover. Welcome to Movie Talk. Welcome to episode 4 of Movie Talk. Today we're going to be talking about crimes of the future. If you haven't watched the episode of Movie Talk yet, this is where we talk about the direction, cinematography, writing, casting characters, score, and sound design. We talk about all these different elements of a film individually, then I give the film a rating based on my opinion. So stick to the end to see my thoughts on this film. So Crimes of the Future takes place in a dystopian, bleak future where human beings are kind of going through a transformation and living more of a synthetic experience. The body of certain individuals is going through certain transformations and mutations, and we're following performance artists who are highlighting these mutations and things by showcasing them as performance art. Cronenberg does such a great job at creating this universe that this film lives in and keeping that direction full all the way through. If you're into the horror genre, you know who this director is, and you know he's been working at different narratives and stories for a very long time, and he's been getting better and better. And this movie, I feel like, is really a beautiful piece of his mind and thoughts of maybe how the future is going to be. The characters that inhabit the film that we're watching are equally as interesting. Although I feel a bit of a distance from the characters, we never really get a sense of who they are internally as individuals, rather certain goals that they're trying to achieve, like performing better in front of these audiences or trying to figure out what things to perform and improve to draw more people. Cronenberg really reminds me of David Lynch in the sense of like how he could create a whole world a film could live in that's so separate and detached from our current world, such a unique perspective. After some processing of the film, I realized that the story is like following the character played by Viggo Mortensen, who's slowly discovering that he is a part of the next line of human beings, the next line of evolution. I really love how the direction really focuses in on Mortensen, played by Viggo, and his slow discovery of how he realizes he's a part of the next line of human evolution and the slow acceptance of it. Watching the film from beginning to end, you did really feel a cohesive energy all throughout and a cohesiveness of the universe that the film takes place in. But you may fall off here or there because the narrative slowly reveals itself. It's almost like a slow burner. I think Léa Seydoux really did a great job as Caprice, and the chemistry between her and Viggo's character was phenomenal. The directing there is so subtle, especially those intimate moments that they shared together. It seems so real. I would give the direction a 4 out of 5. I think Cronenberg did a really great job at creating this unique universe the film takes place in and gradually bringing us in, and also having the characters really involved with the world and interacting with the different aspects of it. I think it's very interesting that David Cronenberg has built this future where individuals are even more involved and obsessed with body mutations, blood, chaos a bit, because it seems like that's the world that we live in today. We enjoy a bit of chaos, destruction. I mean, if you look at the news, it's always all negative, but we still have a detachment from it because we're just reading it. In this film, people are literally in this audience watching as Caprice, played by Léa Seydoux, is slicing up Viggo's character, and they're at awe and they're astonished by what they're kind of presenting here as a maybe political statement. I think they were getting at that Viggo essentially was not accepting of these different transformations his body was going through, and he wanted to take control. And this was like sort of the performance art that he presented along with Caprice. Moving on to the cinematography, the cinematographer's name is Douglas Coach, and I think he did such an incredible job. If you watch the other movie talks, you know I love a bit of darkness in film. I love shadows. I love grittiness. Douglas Coach built such a moody dystopian future. It reminds me almost of Blade Runner, minus all the neon signs and such. It's just a dark, gloomy world that these characters live in, which makes so much sense to how they are kind of involved with these brutal performance pieces. It doesn't seem like people are really happy in this universe. I think what really floors me is the set designs and how these like places ended up looking, but the lighting and the camera work had such a huge part in presenting this world and making us slowly more and more comfortable and accepting of what's going on screen. There's some stark imagery sometimes here where the lighting is like almost absent and it's allowing for silhouettes and moodier moments to be present. I don't know if it was just me, but I felt there were moments here that channeled the Matrix a bit, like when Viggo, his character, is laying back on the chair and he's going through whatever this chair is doing to his body to make whatever easier. I just thought of the Matrix when Neo was getting plugged in. There's these moments during the performances that the lighting is almost like club lighting mixed with blues and oranges, where characters are blue, but the ones that are speaking are in this warm orange hue. And I thought that was a great way to kind of show the characters that we should be focusing on. I would give the cinematography a 4 out of 5. No particular shot really stood out for me. I think it just did a great job at crafting this dark universe and making it presentable to the viewer like myself. I love doing these breakdowns because they kind of make me discover things that make me laugh a little bit. The writer of the screenplay is none other than David Cronenberg. A lot of the dialogue is really quiet, subtle whispers that give more a sense of that intimacy that certain scenes call for. It's a complicated story because you're gonna need to really inform the audience of what is going on. Since it's so detached from our reality, you need to inform us of like certain things that we need to know in order to understand the narrative as a whole. The introduction of the registry, the introduction of like the fact that they're performance artists and Viggo is actually really well known and almost a celebrity in the place that this film takes. I feel like this film does need a little bit of patience of that because of that slow burner aspect and how a lot of it is a mystery and we have to piece it together slowly. Although the narrative is almost split in two with the performance art world and the world of like the next line of evolution, the human beings that have this strange new digestive system that they could consume plastic. The film, I think, does a nice job at bouncing around each, since this faction of the story, the new digestive systems and new evolution of humans, is a big part of the performance art. Viggo's character is constantly extracting organs from his body that he believes he's growing with his own mind and body or his rest or something. But slowly he realizes that actually he is a part of that next line of human beings, that next line of evolution that not all human beings are accepting of. I feel like I need to see this film again just because you make these discoveries after the fact, and when you watch it again with that perspective, you may see the film as a whole different thing. I would give the writing a 4 out of 5 as well. I think a lot of the dialogue feels so fitting and right for the characters, and I was always intrigued. I was always trying to hear what was being said. There was never a moment that I tuned out. I think it's all really written well to the flow of the universe. It's a quiet, really slow-paced, dense world until you get hit by these performance arts, these like events that they have. That's where the energy starts kicking up a bit. Otherwise, it seems like a really gloomy, subtle, dark world, and the dialogue fits in that sort of lane. We're following Viggo Mortensen and Léa Seydoux's characters as they sort of continue on in their careers of performing in front of these audiences. What they do as performance art is essentially they repurpose the autopsy machine in order to do live surgeries and live extractions of these strange organs that Viggo's character seems to just produce and grow in his body. He's become a bit of a celebrity because of these performances. There's an underlying story here where Viggo is also a detective and he's slowly brought into the world of the next line of human beings, the next evolution of human beings. He meets a person that slowly introduces these ideas to his head that there are human beings with different digestive systems that have grown over time that can consume and digest plastic. This man shows him like a small factory where he's producing these bars that only the next line of human beings can consume. They showed a scene of a regular human eating one of these bars and he slowly just like suffocated and died just then and there. So while we're also watching these different performance art pieces, we're also following Viggo as a detective, slowly learn more about what's going on in this next line of evolution and who these individuals kind of are. I'm seeing that maybe Viggo's character was in denial for a very long time about his body, and maybe the fact that he is a part of that next line of human beings. It seems like the society where the film takes place in hasn't fully accepted that next line of human beings, that next line of evolution. So they're almost like a denial and a push away of those people. But Viggo himself, being a celebrity, he actually slowly discovers that he is one of those individuals. And at the end of the movie, we see him eat this plastic bar that killed a regular human being. But for him, he finally was able to eat and consume this thing and digest it, where throughout the whole film, he was struggling to eat regular food. The ending left me a little bit confused, but also I like when films do that and they make you rack your brain a little bit as to what had just happened. Even though the film was a bit of a slow burner, I enjoyed the watch, yet I think the pacing could have been a little quicker and a little snappier, just to keep more of our attention, but also the narrative felt like it was going in too many different directions. I would give the story a 3 out of 5. I think it's extremely creative, and I think that the way the film ended with the character almost coming to this revelation and discovery that he needs to accept that he is a part of this next line of human beings is actually really funny and great, because the whole film almost focuses on that next line of evolution not being fully accepted in their society, yet Viggo, him as a character, as a celebrity, he is one of those. So it's almost going to spark this conversation, almost this revolution maybe in that moment. Léa Seydoux plays Caprice, and she does such a wonderful job at being that character. It's almost eerie that she's so obsessed with this body mutilation, and then even to include herself in that world where she starts kind of warping her own body. I very much bought her character. I very much kind of understood maybe that she wants to kind of be more in the limelight as her partner Saul Tenser, played by Viggo Mortensen. I think they had such a great chemistry together on screen that you almost like threw out the window the fact that they're so apart from age, which I don't think is important in this world. And the moments of intimacy between them two seem so real and authentic. I just was so floored by the cinematography, especially that shot where they're both laying together. There's these moments of intimacy that are so private, it seems like, and the naturalness of how like they show us these moments, I felt were beautiful and poignant. The casting here is really interesting. I would have thought that Kristen Stewart would have stood out to me more, her being kind of a celebrity that's a little more in the limelight, but how she played her character, this kind of quiet yet like secretively intense individual, was really cool. The characters here really seem self-involved a bit. They want to improve the performance art that they're doing, and they're willing to kind of go to any level to do so. It's so interesting that I'm saying performance art, but the concept of the film performance art is literally Viggo's character getting opened up by this autopsy machine that they repurposed for the purposes of these performances. It's such a bizarre thing to speak on too, because that pain, the surgery sort of approach that these individuals are experiencing is actually also derived in a bit of sexual pleasure. Here in this world, pain equates to sexual pleasure. Viggo's character Saul Tenser refers to just simply making out and getting turned on in that way as old sex. Is this what David Cronenberg thinks we're gonna lean towards? More of like a pain approach? I think the film is very well casted and everybody did a great job at living in this world and becoming these strange characters, but there wasn't much that we could connect to. It's so focused in on the characters being involved in these performances. There's intimate moments, yet I still felt like I couldn't connect to these characters. I didn't know who they were really. Essentially, we're following a celebrity character, so maybe that's why we can't get too deep and personal to kind of get beyond the two-dimensional characteristics. But I would have loved to know how this character got to where he was, or even how this world came to be. I know certain answers can't be provided in films like The Road. They never give us the reason as to why the world is as it is in that film. But to me, that's something that's important to kind of get closer and connect to the characters a little more. I think the score is really beautiful, but it didn't really stand out to me, so I feel like I can't necessarily give it a rating. I think it did a great job at just creating the atmosphere and playing into the world. I know there was moments that it really picked up, but otherwise, I feel like it was a bit subtle or more in the background, because I literally watched the film yesterday and I can't recall a moment where the score was really captivating. This is one of those movies that is unique because it's in its own world and realm. David Cronenberg has built a future that requires its own sort of sound, its own sort of set pieces, its own sort of props. I think the sound design was very interesting because of this. You're hearing when the skin gets seared by these lasers, by these knives. You hear when these different machines that these individuals are sitting and involved in are cracking and moving around. It's very interesting and it's unique because these are pieces that don't exist in the real world. So something has to be done to make them convincing. I would give the sound design a 4 out of 5 just because of the fact that it needed to really prop these different environments up and create a unique experience sonically for us, because these are items and things that we don't see in our real world or reality. I would give this film a 3 out of 5. I think it's a very beautiful art house sort of film, very unique in its respect, and no one else can do a film like this, like I mentioned, other than David Cronenberg. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I think I would watch it again just so I could see it in a different perspective, what I know now in a second viewing. I highly recommend you watch it as it's pretty engaging and entertaining. It does get a little bit gruesome, but you kind of get used to it as you continue watching, which I think is a great comment as maybe how desensitized we are as a society, that we could just watch this and slowly become comfortable with it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you like it? Did you not? Leave a comment below. Remember to comment, like, subscribe to the channel as it helps us a lot. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown and review. Thanks for watching.